Good evening. How are you? I just listened to Lester Holt, and I couldn't be more disappointed with the way the media is attacking the Democrats to the exclusion of Trump in this election. The temperature outside was 101 today and terrible humidity, so I swam indoors, not at my place, but at a nearby pool. And the laps could not clear away my dread at what this campaign has become. Our Constitution begins with the words, "we, the people," and those are the only persons who are going to save us from Trump and save us from the kind of coverage that is prejudiced in favor of Trump because it only involves attacking one person. When I was a kid in the South Bronx, we had a game, Johnny on the Pony. It wasn't me, but it went like this. Several people would line up at a wall, and one person would stand and the others would interlock as if they were the back of a pony. Across the street, running past parked cars, people would run and they'd jump as high as they could in the air and try to break the back of the pony. And if they broke the back of the pony, then they got to do it again. So you did this until it stopped. What's going on now? Lester Holt is one of the most recent persons to be trying to break the back of the pony up against the wall. And the symbolism or metaphor that I make so clumsily is this is Johnny on the pony. Except it's Biden is the pony. And there's one thing that's not working for Lester Holt or for any of these people that think they can easily compromise Biden and make him feel unworthy or discourage him from running for office. And so when Lester Holt trips the light fantastic across the street and jumps up on Biden as the pony, he doesn't break him. He doesn't break him. And you know what? In the few minutes that I heard the comments after Lester Holt's so-called interview, I heard them say, Biden was combative. Yes, and do you know what his combative principle was? Are you going to talk about the lies of Trump? Are you going to talk about the issues? It was a set piece to attack Biden and to make him think for some reason or other, despite the millions of votes that he got to get the nomination, that he should just walk away from it. What kind of a commitment is that? Biden said that he knew that he was old, but he also knew what he had done despite his age in office these years, and it compared with anything going back to FDR. It was one of the most productive periods in our presidential history, and it was done while Biden was the president. Now, Lester Holt got very upset that at one point, when asked about Trump, Biden said that we have him in the crosshairs. We have to put him in the crosshairs and focus on him because nobody else is. And they said, was that the kind of language that, encourages violence? No, it's a metaphor that everybody understands. Focus, crosshairs, target. I often quote Aristotle, and he says nothing improves your aim like having a target. And our target is Trump. And why is he our target? And what was the context of that remark? The context of that remark was Biden saying, this man is unfit to be president, which, by the way, is what the New York Times said, except they didn't ask Trump to step down, but they asked Biden to do so when there's only a couple of years between them. And there is a gulf as wide as the Grand Canyon between the ethics of these two men, of their caring for people, of their accomplishments in life, of their public service. Lester Holt should be ashamed because he was more interested in getting attention for him, but he wasn't that good at it. And the, quote, combative Biden answered him back. Now, can you be combative if you can't charge your synapses, can't think on your feet, can't come back with discussions? There were no notes. There was no teleprompter. He didn't know what the questions were beforehand. And so Biden succeeded again. And when he was asked, did he want to go and do another debate? He said, I've done 22 events. I am in the election now, and I am working on the election now, and that's what I'm doing. My experience right now is that it appears that corporate is telling their anchors and their hosts Or these individuals are deciding this on their own, knowing not that much about politics, not that much about us, not that much about human nature. I've talked to people, and as long as Biden had a heartbeat, they would choose him over Trump. And I understand it. And if anybody thinks that the shooting the other day wasn't a direct outcome of what Trump's been saying and how he's been talking violence and how the nation is concerned, especially after the 2025 plan that they are seeking to embrace. And now they have a vice presidential candidate that's as bad could be. This is the worst example of the kind of people that swarm around Trump because he is their vehicle and their license to do whatever the hell they want, to ignore the Constitution, to ignore the law, and to ignore the will of the people. So if you can spend $5 or $10, do it. If you can write notes to your neighbor that you think are possibly interested, do it. And tell them that nothing less than their freedom is at stake. And if we do not resist Trump, there's an indication that the media, supposedly the vehicle for freedom of speech, well, the speech isn't much freedom when you're not talking about both candidates, and they're not. And they scratch their heads on the evening news saying, I don't understand why people are mad at us. We're mad at you because you're not talking to the issue. You're ignoring the issue, you're burying it, and we're all too old to know when you think we're fools. We are not fools. And that's why people are going to stop watching the shows and stop reading the newspapers and stop subscribing. Because we don't need you to think that you can brainwash us to believe that Biden is something he's not when we see the hard, cold evidence. So I showed a little anxiety. No. Anxious worry? No. Anger? Yes. Am I being combative? Yes. Because we have to fight for our freedom. Because the ones who are chosen to do that, they're not fighting for us. So we have to fight for ourselves. It's happened before in America. They keep saying, when has anything like this happened before? Well, I remember the 60s. I lived through the 60s. I saw Nixon and his henchmen do things like this, but never as bad, never as totalitarian. So that's all I got to say. I wish I could be more reassuring, but I am reassured in this sense. When I was young and I read Thomas Jefferson, he had a passage that I spent a lot of time reading and rereading. And it was his belief that over time, the people get it. The people figure it out. Well, I've seen elections since then, and I've seen elections where I think that's happened. Well, I sure hope it happens in this one. I believe it is happening in this one. And I think that that's how we take the White House back again, but for Biden, not for Trump. And so that's all I got to say tonight. And maybe tomorrow the temperature will drop a little bit, but it's pretty terrible these days. All the best. Bye-bye.